What's up everybody, welcome back. As you can probably imagine, I continue to get a lot of questions regarding my appearance and my tattoos, understandably, so I figured today would be a great day to give everybody a full tattoo tour. I'll walk you guys through all of my tattoos in sequential order, meaning I'm going to start with my very first tattoo all the way up to my most recent, my eyes, so make sure you stick around till the end. I'll also give you guys a pain rating for everyone, 1 for my least painful tattoo, 10 for my most painful tattoo. Not all my tattoos have meaning, in fact most of them don't, but if there is a backstory behind them, I'll be sure to tell you all about it. I'll also give you the artist details for those that have worked on me. A lot of my tattoos are self-done as well, so I'll point those out to you. But before you even ask, no, I do not know how many tattoos I have currently. I know many people don't understand the appeal of tattoos and body mods, especially when looking at somebody who's taken it as far as I have, and I can't really give you a concrete reason as to why I've gone this far, but I will say that everybody has their hobbies and their passions, and this happens to be one of mine. I will say that my passion for tattoos and body mods have been around for a long time. Probably at the age of 7, I was given a couple Guinness Book of World Records, and I would consistently find myself flipping to those pages of the most tattooed individuals. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe I just thought it was cool, or maybe it was because I was brought up in such a conservative religious household that I just loved the idea of somebody living so far outside of the norm. I grew up with a single mom, no siblings, and I didn't get to know my father until my teenage years, so my first memory of him was actually a photo. And in the photo I saw he had some old 90s tribal tattooed on his arms, and I thought it was awesome. And that was probably the first time in my life that I realized that I wanted to get tattooed. Daddy issues, right? My mom fucking hated the idea of me getting tattooed, so I couldn't get tattooed right on my 18th birthday. It just would have caused too much drama in the family. So I did end up waiting until I was 19, and that caused issue enough. But it did give me a chance to wait long enough and find a first artist who I really liked their style. That artist ended up being Dave Fox out of Philadelphia. Now I already knew that I wanted to be covered in tattoos. I wanted an entire bodysuit by the time I was dead, so I did not start with something small. I started with my entire rib panel. In my younger years, I really wanted a Japanese style bodysuit. I was super into Japanese culture, mythology, and yes, of course, anime. So my first tattoo, we did a kitsune. That is Japanese for a fox, and in Japanese mythology, foxes are able to transform into attractive women, females, to seduce men so they can then devour them. This tattoo never had a lot of meaning to me personally. I really just liked his art style. I love the idea behind it, so that's why I did it. But it was long, it was time consuming and painful. I give this one an 8 out of 10 on the pain scale. The next tattoos I had done were my stomach and my chest. I had these done at the same time by a couple of different Japanese artists, but I was able to catch them in San Francisco when they attended a convention. We'll start with my stomach tattoo. This was done by Mutsuo of Three Tides Tattoo out of Osaka, Japan. It is a severed head, aka a namakubi. Now, there's not much meaning to this, I just thought it looked pretty sick. This one wasn't too bad. The worst part of it was the fact that I had to sit up in a folding chair the entire time, but pain rating was probably a 4 or 5. My chest was done by an artist named Tomo, who currently owns his own studio called Silk Needle, but at the time he was working with Shige out of Yellow Blaze, based in Yokohama. Now, we decided to do a hanya, which in Japanese mythology is what happens when a female gets so jealous she turns into a devil. Now, there's not a whole lot of meaning to this behind me. I just thought it kind of worked with my my rib panel, and I thought it looked cool, so why not? We got the first session done on this while I was out in San Francisco, but then a couple months later I flew out to Yokohama to finish it all up. Now, we colored it in. We also decided to add a couple sparrows just because, I don't know, Tomo thought it would look cool, and I agreed. It's hard for me to rate the pain of my chest tattoo just because it was so dependent on what area it was. Most of my chest I would give a 3 to a 4, not bad at all, but a couple areas were really rough. The ditches where the armpit is, and as you got close to the nipple, those were both 8 or 9s. My next few tattoos were self-done. See, I had decided that I wanted to become a tattoo artist, but before I got a formal apprenticeship, I was fucking around with tattoo machines, tattooing myself, tattooing a couple of my good friends, so I decided to tattoo a realistic owl on the top of my foot to start off with. And I quickly realized that was a horrible idea. Looked like shit, so I covered it up with some whirlpools and cherry blossoms. This is probably my least favorite tattoo that is still on me to date. I'll probably black it out at some point, but the foot was pretty painful. I'd give it a 7. My next self-done tattoo was after I got my formal apprenticeship. I spent about 9 months apprenticing to become a tattoo artist at a local shop, and one of the last tests they had me do before I was able to tattoo other people was to tattoo myself. So I did a hand-poked geometric mandala on my thigh. That was not painful at all. I give it a 2 out of 10. As you can probably tell, I'm no longer a fan of geometric tattoos nor mandalas, so I blacked it out years later. I also decided to quit my apprenticeship because tattooing as a career was just not for me. Not long after I tattooed my thigh, I decided that I wanted to try to tattoo my palm, so I did the word coop on my fingers and I did a circle on my palm. Now, coop was the name of my first apartment and what we dubbed our group of friends back then. Palm tattoos are notorious for healing terribly. This one was no exception, and the fact that I did it drunk probably didn't help any, but I'm gonna hold off on giving you the pain level of tattooing the palm until later. My next few tattoos have a lot to do with mental health and deal with some really sensitive subjects, so if that's not something you'd like to watch through, please skip ahead in the video. That being said, this is in the past, so please don't worry about me. At present, I'm doing just fine. But in the fall of 2017, I did make an attempt on my life. I tried to commit suicide by overdosing. I won't go too in-depth with it, but I did do some damage. I was hospitalized for a couple months, and when I was released, I was coping by heavily drinking. I got myself a DUI. I could not drive. I then broke my ankle. I needed surgery on it, so it was a really rough year as a whole. I started work back at a restaurant, and it was the stress was just too great for me, so I started abusing a Xanax as well, which is horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. I was able to quit, but before I stopped doing that shit, I ended up tattooing myself one night. I mixed Xanax, I mixed alcohol, I blacked out, and decided to do a blackout tattoo. So yeah, I don't know what the thought process was there. I mean, I know a bit, but most of it is blurry. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I did. I tried to black out my forearm, and in addition, I scribbled away my forehead. So when I woke up in the morning, that was quite a sight to see. I can say for certainty that these were my only tattoos that were rooted in self-harm. I did not tattoo my face thinking I would look cool. I did it because I wanted to kill myself again, but I could not get the nerve to do it, so I figured that by ruining my face, it would drive me, it would push me over the edge to finally kill myself. It did not work though, because when I woke up in the morning, I realized what I had done, and it really pushed me more than anything to better myself and get my act together and just make improvements as a whole to my life. Although the thought of tattoo removal did cross my mind at first, I wore beanies over my head for the entire first year of having this, but the tattoo sort of grew on me. You know, it did look awful. It was quite a job stopper, but I liked the idea of keeping it as a reminder of where I'd come from and to never let myself get back to that place. It also helped that I was getting really into heavy blackout tattoos at the time and abstract black work. It was kind of popping off in Europe, but I hadn't seen too much of that stuff done here stateside, so I did some digging and I was able to find an artist who was specializing in blackout tattoos. His name is Hoodie. He's based in Philadelphia, so I went to him to black all this work out properly, because as you can imagine, doing this in my state of mind at the time, it healed like shit. The pain rating for tattooing my forearm and forehead by myself is a 0, because I barely remember it. However, my forearm got a real bad infection, it got cellulitis, and the healing of that was awful, probably 10 out of 10. Hoodie was able to cover up all that scarring on my forearm. He also finished off the rest of my sleeve. Most of it was not bad. He has a pretty light hand for doing as solid black as he does. I'd say the sleeve as a whole was about a 3. There were a couple rough spots though. The armpit was terrible. That was 9 out of 10. And the elbow was probably more like a 6, 7 out of 10. He covered all those scribbles on my forehead, he blacked out my right ear and did my left earlobe. The process as a whole was pretty rough. I'd give it a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. Some spots were obviously worse than others. The ear was not as bad as I would have expected. It was probably less painful than the forehead was. However, the worst part of that was sitting through the noise. It got extremely loud, especially the back part of my ear was deafening. Once I made the jump to tattooing my face, most of my employment opportunities were out the window anyway, so hands and neck were free game. I started off by tattooing my neck by an artist named Gordo Letters. He's based in Portugal, but I was able to catch him when he visited New York City. As the years had gone on, my taste in tattooing really strayed away from the Japanese color tattoos and more into black work. Now, Gordo specializes in a style that he calls abstract calligraphy, and I love the look of it. There's no meaning to it, I just think it looks cool. Now, we did my neck in back-to-back full-day sessions. Really, the neck would be a 6 or a 7 out of 10 for me, but the fact that I went back and still worked over that tender area, I'd give that that second day a 9 out of 10. After that, I went back to Hoodie to do my most painful tattoos to date, my palms. I chose to do these more as a challenge to myself more than anything. I think there's only one other person in the world, to my knowledge, who has tried to black out their palms, and it is excruciating. My left palm was done with a tattoo mag and color packed as if it was any other part of the body, but because it is a palm, a lot of the ink fell out, and I'm left with almost this cool gray wash. My right palm was done using a stippling method, just using a liner and doing individual dots. The ink there held much better, and it gives it a much different texture than my left. The pain of tattooing these hands were about equal. They were both 10 out of 10, by far my worst tattoos ever. However, the healing process on my left hand was far worse. Because the color was packed so solid, I could not move my fingers for a week after the tattoo. Definitely my worst heal, with the exception of perhaps the cellulitis infection that I got on my forearm. Sometime after that, I went back to Gordo to do a design on the back of my hands. We did both of these in the same day. The hands were about an 8, but the fingers were a 9. I got really into doing self-done tattoos after this point. I've hand-poked a lot of my face tattoos. I did these vertical lines first. I did my cheeks. I added some drips coming off my forehead. I did the bridge of my nose. Most of these weren't all that painful because they were stick and poke. They were about a 3 out of 10, though the eye area did get pretty painful. I've made quite a bit of content doing these self-done tattoos. If you follow me on TikTok, you may have seen 1 or 2 of these videos pop up on your feed before. I tattooed the inside of my lip for one of these videos. That didn't hurt at all, 1 out of 10. I attempted to do some scarification on my forehead as well. A lot of people wonder about this and how exactly I did it. I used a cautery pen. I actually got 2 different brands. One worked pretty well and the other one not so much, so I will have to touch that up at some point. I know it's not a tattoo, but it was very painful. 9 out of 10. I've done a lot of work on my legs myself as well. These were all machine done. These were not hand poked, and most of it has been either for streaming purposes or content reasons. They're just fun, they're doodles, there's really no meaning to it whatsoever. This will be an ongoing process for the foreseeable future. My lower leg was mostly me practicing different styles of black work. My upper leg is for my TikTok live streams. Anytime somebody hits a gift goal, they get their name tattooed on my leg. It's all for fun, and it's a good way for me to show some love to my supporters. The pain rating for the leg is all over the place. The majority of it's only about a 3 out of 10, but there are some spicy areas. The inner thigh and the knee are both 7 out of 10s, and I will mention that this thigh over here, that I tattooed next to a campfire, and that was my second bout with cellulitis. It got very badly infected, even worse than my forearm. I could not walk for an entire week after that one. There definitely is a risk involved with tattooing yourself, especially if you're doing it in an environment that is not sterile. I cannot recommend that anybody tattoo themselves, but I'm also not going to tell you what to do with your own body. Before we get into my latest tattoos, my eyes, I do have to mention there are 2 that I can't show you here on YouTube. I tattooed a scythe on my dick, and I tattooed an X underneath my balls on my taint. I filmed that process for OnlyFans. They were both pretty painful. I'd give them 8 out of 10. And now on to the one that everybody wants to know about these days, my eye tattoos. It's also known as sclera tattooing, and it's a procedure done different than other tattoos. It's done using a series of injections rather than a tattoo machine. In the wrong hands, it can be risky, it can be dangerous. People have gone blind and had their eyes removed as a result to improper technique of trying to do eyeball tattoos. But I myself went to a guy named Luna Cobra. He is the one who originated the procedure. He's been doing it almost 20 years at this point, and he's never harmed anyone in the process. I would not suggest that anybody have this done themselves. It is life-changing to say the least, but I have been following the procedure since 2007 when BME's zine first posted about Luna Cobra doing it. So this was not a spur-of-the-moment decision for me. I have thought about it for many, many, many years before I actually decided to have it done. You can have your sclera tattooed in a multitude of different colors. You can mix them together, you could do solid black, but I like how Luna Cobra does his marble gray tattoos, so I chose to go with that one myself. There is a growing issue of untrained individuals getting more and more into body modification and trying to do eyeball tattoos on their own. It is a very dangerous procedure, so I'm going to respect Luna Cobra's wishes and not delve too much into the actual procedure of how it's done. But to answer my most frequently asked questions, can I still see? Yes, I see just fine. I've always had 20/20 vision, and that has not changed since the procedure. However, my light sensitivity may be a touch worse. I do have naturally blue eyes, so I've always hated being out in direct sunlight, but these days I definitely wear sunglasses. What was the healing process like? It was very easy. I felt like I had maybe a grain of sand in there for the first 24 to 48 hours, but after that I was perfectly fine. There was a touch of swelling, but nothing worth noting. Did they hurt? Of course course, this is probably the most frequently asked question, and no, it didn't. The pain level was probably a 2 out of 10. I felt a slight pinch on one spot, but other than that, it was almost painless. And do I regret them or any of my tattoos? And the answer to that is fuck no. Why would I go through the process of having it done if I was just gonna regret it? That just about does it for the video, and if you're still wondering, yes, I still want more tattoos. I want to be completely covered. My next one will probably be my right sleeve, but who knows? On that note, if you're enjoying my content, make sure you hit the video with a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you want to see from me next. But thank you, take care, y'all.